So, my name is Ariana Brink, and I'm here to tell you why you should care about worms. So, I have a riddle for you. What has 20 legs, spikes on its back, and a jawless mouth? Any guesses? Anyone? You're all so uncreative. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's this thing. This is Hallucigenia. Named that way because whoever made it was probably hallucinating. Fun fact, when they first found the first fossil of this guy, they constructed it upside down. They thought the spikes were the legs, and the wiggly bits were on top. Luckily, we found some more fossils, and we have a much more modern interpretation of them now. You can see the history of their construction. Look at that, a beautiful little creature. Now we know Hallucigenia to be like this, a 0.5 to 5.5 centimeter long worm with about 20 legs, the first 3 pairs of which being completely limbless noodles, the others of them having little tiny claws at the bottom of them. They had spikes on their backs, incredibly simple eyes, and they used their jawless mouth to filter feed on debris on the bottom of the ocean floor. Very cool. Now, what's actually interesting about this animal, besides its appearance, is its age. This funny thing is 505 million years old, and it existed during one of the very first eras of life on our planet, also known as the Cambrian era. The Cambrian era was from around 550 to 490 million years ago, and at this time, life was completely constricted to the oceans. That didn't mean it wasn't interesting. No. Things were going crazy. Due to a spike in oxygen levels in the air, an explosion of diversity happened under the ocean. This is also why it's called the Cambrian explosion, fun fact. Now, you already know one of the amazing animals from this era, Hallucigenia, but there are also such gems as the world's first apex predator, Anomalocaris. I have a plushie of this. They grew up to be around 38 to 35 centimeters long without those front 2 pieces, and they would use those front 2 appendages to crush and kill their prey. There were also another cool animal called Opabinia, which had 5 eyes, a weird trunk mouth, and it was just very cool. There were also some other specimens that I honestly can't even begin to describe. All of the animals you see here are animals. And last but not least, a wonderful specimen. What is this? What were they doing? They were trying things out, that's what they were doing. But unfortunately, the fun times can't last forever, and eventually the oxygen levels fell back down and carbon dioxide spiked, leading to a mass extinction. Almost everything in the ocean completely died. And it really makes me sad that some of my very favorite animals are completely extinct. One night, while I was scrolling through Hallucigenia's Wikipedia page in an attempt to quell my sadness, I found something that really lifted my spirits. I was introduced to an animal. The velvet worm. Not actually a worm, it's a species called an onychoporid, and they live in the tropics of South America and some parts of Australia. They scuttle around on the rainforest floor, eating bugs and shooting goo out of their face. Very cool. Now, what's actually interesting, and what you might recognize, is those little legs. They look familiar. Specifically, their claws. That's right. These worms and Hallucigenia, many scientists believe, share the same kind of claws. 2 worms, separated by multiple mass extinction events, 540 million years and all of human history, sharing feet. This worm has connections to something from beyond the borders we created for time. Now you may be thinking, why are you telling me this? I don't care about worm feet. Well, I'm here to tell you that you have more in common with the humble velvet worm than you might think. For example, let's take a look at a human skull. That's a pretty impressive jaw you've got there. How did you come to get that? Well, if we look at fish during the Silurian period, we can see something interesting. This is a modern-day fish. You see that little gill there, what they breathe out of? They have a structure that supports that called a gill arch. Back in the Silurian period, there were no jaws, so they just had holes. And eventually, those gill arches moved forward into their face, closer and closer, to help catch bigger prey, eventually forming the very first jaws. So, okay, cool. Your jaw comes from fish, no big deal. Let's take another big look at your skull. That's a weird hole. Why do you have that hole behind your eye socket? Who gave you that? Well, that can be brought back to our great-great-great-grandpa's cousin, the synapsids, a group of animals that lived before the dinosaurs, around 360 million years ago during the start of the Carboniferous period, the most famous of which being Dimetrodon, which you might know from some of the Jurassic Park movies. The reason we know there are great-great-great-great ancestors is because they have this, a little hole called a temporal fenestra behind their eye socket that all modern-day mammals share. Very cool, thank you. Since we're looking at the jaw, let's take a look at those teeth. Such fun shapes and sizes, and so many different uses. Who gave you those? Well, I know. It is actually a category of synapsids called the cynodonts. Cynodont meaning dog teeth, because they were the very first instance of things like molars and incisors being found in teeth, so teeth with separate functions. Very cute, I know. Fun fact, these guys also gave us our separated palate, meaning that we can chew our food and breathe out of our nose at the same time. Very useful. So, our buggy friend shares feet with another, and you share most of your parts with other animals. In fact, from our skulls to our toes, most of it can be attributed to creatures that figured it out first. But all these animals, the cynodonts, Dimetrodon, the first jawed fish, and Hallucigenia, they're all gone now. Most of the animals we know are extinct. Most animals that have lived on this planet are completely extinct. All these animals that so many people love, the awe-inspiring dinosaurs, the powerful Ice Age mammals, and even the more recent dodo, they're all gone. Only remembered because some of them fossilized, and we found them. Looking back at our planet's history might make you sad. Many people mourn the dinosaurs. They feel cheated that they will never know what these amazing animals actually looked like. That's partly why I care so much about the Cambrian era. I love all these amazing animals and the amazing things they might have looked like, and it really pains me that I'll never be able to see something as amazing as a Hallucigenia. And so I learn all I can about them in order to fill that void. But we never lost these animals. They're still here. In your body right now, you can find memories of them. And in the organisms we see around us today, there are reflections of those that came before them. Every body is a living museum of its own history. Your body is a mosaic of evolutionary traits all sewn together. All these animals gone millions of years before we could see them, that we can only imagine what they actually looked like, are not as permanently erased as you might think. They gave pieces of themselves to you, to all of us. And I think that's amazing. Because every single creature here, every single animal in the human existence and in every existence, transcends the borders of time because it's so incredibly interconnected with everything that came before it. And that's why I think you should care, at least a little bit, about something like a velvet worm. The velvet worm that is a reflection of an animal that lived during the very beginning of life on Earth. Because your body, and the bodies you share this planet with, deserve some respect. So do not mourn the dinosaurs, because they never left. Thank you.